This is a video of a trainer named Emily Larlham. She runs Kiko Pup on YouTube. She's a very good positive reinforcement dog trainer, and she broke the Guinness Book of World Records for the most amount of tricks with a dog. And I'm going to show it to you right now, and we're going to chat about it real quick. So here she goes, right? There's a timer somewhere, and then all these behaviors. That's a distal station behavior, right? It says it right here. Back it up, sideways, side step, all this stuff. So how this is trained individually. So you train a high five individually, you train it up, you train it through the legs individually, and then you chain them together to make one long behavior, which is what she's doing. You could train most of these behaviors on your own. The skill is chaining them in this order all together over a minute, right? A lot of behaviors. I like this behavior. It's like a run around. That's pretty cool. She probably put cones out here, train them to run around the cones, then faded out the cones. So fading is a big part when you're going to train like this. Distal behaviors and a lot of behaviors, you got to fade out the treats. I don't think she doesn't have treats in her hand. That's good. And then reinforcement at the end of it. So the frisbees were the reinforcement. So she trained a bunch of behaviors, faded out the treats, and then had there be a reinforcement at the end. I met her years ago. I hired a trainer, and the trainer's like, oh, you should meet Emily. You guys would have a lot to talk about dog training wise. So we met at a park. And all I remember from the interaction is she brought this little dog, and the little dog would just sit there and stare at her and offer behaviors. Be like, here's my paw. And like, here, I'm gonna roll over. And Emily was like kind of trying to ignore the dog, which is one way to extinguish sort of dogs who just offer and are constantly like, I wanna do stuff, I wanna do stuff. But it's not going to go away by just ignoring the behavior. But anyway, all it reminded me of was the dolphins at SeaWorld. So the dolphins at SeaWorld would basically, as the trainers walk by, they'd be like, here's my flipper, and here it clicks and whistles and make noises, and then maybe I'll get fish and attention. And the issue is because there's nothing else to do. Like that little dog and those dolphins, their world is that person. There's not a big world. Like she doesn't let her dogs go play with other dogs. I've never seen it, right? Their world is that world. So the most exciting thing going on in that world is mom and those treats. And I've been reinforced for doing stuff before, so I'm just gonna try to do stuff to get mom's attention or to get treats. But she doesn't deal with aggression. She doesn't really deal with decreasing behaviors. The thinking in the positive reinforcement world is to ignore bad behaviors or do something called DRI, which is differential reinforcement of incompatible behavior. So if a dog jumps on the counter, we need to reinforce them when they're not jumping on the counter, which is kind of insane, to be honest with you. But it's like, we can't use punishment. We never want to really say no or do anything like that. So we have to find these other ways. So why can't you ignore counter surfing? Because the dog gets reinforced for being on the counter. Dog jumps up on the counter and goes, oh my God, there's chicken. Oh, I smelled the chicken. That's reinforcing. Why would the behavior go away? You can't reinforce it. You can't, it's already reinforcing. It won't go away. So then they go, well, reinforce the dog when he's not jumping on the counter. For a living, she does this. She's very good at doing this. Her dogs do not jump on the counter, I'm guessing. She's constantly got treats. She's constantly reinforcing her dogs. Most people can't do that. So what I do with counter surfing is dog jumps up on the counter and I go, ah, make a little noise, maybe get up, kind of walk into him. And the dog goes, boy, I didn't like when that guy did that. Maybe I'm gonna think about not jumping on the counter. So here's like neutral, right? Here's super punishing, super reinforcing. Counter surfing is just on the reinforcing side. It's not way over here. It's just a little reinforcing to the dog because it smelled the chicken. We want the punishment to be just right here, just on the other side of neutral. We don't want out here. This is shot collars. This is prong collars. I don't do that. You shouldn't do that, okay? But if we make it a little more punishing than the behavior is reinforcing, then we can get rid of the behavior. But many trainers will be like, no, you shouldn't say no and clap your hands. That's gonna hurt the dog. That's gonna scare the dog. No, it's not. Dog will be fine. People need answers, quick answers. okay? Barking's inherently reinforcing. You can't just ignore the behavior, all right? And redirection isn't always the answer. I had a client sitting here today, dog jumped and kind of nipped her, and then she asked a sit and a down. And so I talked to her about, it becomes one behavior, right? The dog jumps, then you ask a sit and a down, and then maybe treat it or give them attention. It becomes one thing. I jump on her, I sit, I lie down, I get treats, right? That's the redirection method. There's all these methods. We want the punishment to be not that punishing, not mean, but a little more punishing than reinforcing. That's how behaviors go away. A lot of trainers don't deal in decreasing behaviors, and they don't have a lot of clients. She doesn't need clients. She's doing her thing. She's doing her thing on YouTube. She's doing her thing on social media. She's doing her thing on Guinness Book of World Records. And that's her thing. And she's very good at it. And she's a nice person. And she's doing her thing. So I think she's deserving. And I'm happy that she got the Guinness book for tricks. It's pretty cool stuff.